James Pierre has really been a pleasure to work with. He is so gifted as a connector of people and a vector, bringing together folks from across different sectors to the museum from the different communities that he's part of, back and forth on a two-way street.
James Pierre, or James Adius Pierre. I'm an arts advocate and I'm the founder of the Adius Arts Initiative. I'm also a luminary with the Gardner Museum. Before being brought in as a luminary, I can't say I had too much interaction with the Gardner. I knew where it was, I knew of its existence, I knew its purpose, but like some other spaces, like many other spaces unfortunately in the city, I didn't really feel like it was for me. Being black and being from a city like Boston, we have this thing where when we were younger, we always noticed that it was lacking, we used to call culture. We always said Boston was lacking culture. And this was early years before I had a chance to travel outside the city to places like New York or Philadelphia or Atlanta, places with big black populations or quote unquote black cities. We always knew, I knew and my friends knew that Boston was missing something in terms of black culture, being really open to black people or people of color. So, you know, it transitioned from being younger and having these opinions or having these sort of gripes with the city to being older and sort of taking charge and deciding, you know, we're not going to complain about it or we're not going to just notice it, we're actually going to do something about it.
As a luminary, one of the tasks that we were given were to take a look at the museum and the pieces and come up with a project with the Luminary Lens series surrounded that particular item or piece and explore it and sort of combine it with what you do as an individual.
I was told how Isabella Stewart was a socialite, inviting people into her home and how she celebrated having a good time, art, and just all things social. So I thought it was a no-brainer for me to have my project surrounding an event. So the idea of a spades night came about when examining a deck of cards that was archived or found in the archives of the Gardner. I thought about a spades night.
What is important is that she saved it. So whether it came in a package with a tapestry, whether it was taped to the back of a painting at some point, whether it's some souvenir from some experience she had where she was playing cards, you know, kind of regardless of how it got to us, what we do know is she made a conscious decision to keep it, which I think is really interesting. And that just makes me think about, like, what is it that about this one spade card that inspired her to keep it in her holdings? The Gardners did play some of these games. One kind of notable moment is while they were traveling, they were actually in Egypt at the time, they were taught how to play one derivative of whist, which is called bezique. And what that made me think of is how there seems to be this impulse across cultures to create these team card games, to work together, to collaborate, to compete in friendly ways with your family and your loved ones. And that it's something that's been an impulse for centuries, which I think is pretty cool and is a connection. That kind of shared interest in games can be a connection across geographies and time periods in a way that I actually hadn't thought of before I was preparing for this conversation and before we spoke.
We're going to take a look at spades as far as being a staple in Black culture. It's in spades, if you're not familiar, is a card game that is played, you know, amongst friends and family during family gatherings, reunions. So we were going to take a look at the whole culture behind it. And originally when we started talking, of course, we were going to use the museum as a venue. But unfortunately in the planning, COVID happened and we had to scale it back. We were hopeful that we were still going to be able to go back to the museum at some point. But with week after week and month after month, it seemed like nothing was reopening. So we started taking a look at other options. And that ended up being a really small scaled event where we had 4 teams with 16 players total meeting at a nearby venue, Darrow's Corner Bar. If you're familiar, Darrow's is the old Bob the Chef's and has a long history in Boston. We were lucky that we were able to contact the owner, the new owner, Nia Grace, and work out a situation with her where she invited us in.
My name is Nia Grace. I am the owner and proprietor or manager here at Daryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen. And I believe that it was very important for us to host this, what I like to call safe and familiar space for our culture to really kind of bleed in and penetrate what American culture claims to be. We are a diverse city with a diverse population within a country that has a very diverse history. And if we don't embrace all the elements of it, we clearly are not accepting of all the pieces that make us whole. So I thought it was absolutely important for us to be able to host a space that has been so familiar in the city of Boston for African Americans who live here, work here, or come to just be educated here, who are looking for that third space outside of their home and work to connect. I'm just so excited to be able to have a game that I used to play all the time and brag about being the best at here in my venue.
Gardner was a kind of consummate convener. And so I also view part of my job, even though I am a curator of the collection, so often we're object focused, part of my job is also understanding the history of Isabella, telling her story in all its complexities. And one of the things that she was best at was having groups of friends and bringing them together.
I thought it was a good idea to reach out to Wendell Bishop and Marvin Venay, two people who I had a strong admiration for, two people who in a lot of different ways embodied a lot of the things that I was already doing. I was a big fan of how they were really invested in civic engagement.
Hi, my name is Wendell Bishop, and I'm here at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum supporting my friend James Pierre. I have a history of putting on spades events with Marvin Venay.
My name is Marvin Venay. I am a political consultant with a boutique political consulting firm called Public Goods LLC. Spades to me started when I was young. Similar to others, I learned by watching my family members play.
Cousins would come by and there'd be spades games on the weekends. But I was so young, my entertainment was watching the spades games.
I mean, in my case, you know, spades is something that I've heard about and I've witnessed.
I learned by watching, and I think if you look at the history of spades in the Black community, no one ever teaches somebody how to play spades, right? There's this willingness to learn and watch, and that's how you learn.
It's a beautiful thing to watch with people who know how to play. It's very passionate.
There was a joy about it. And every gathering that we had, it included a game.
I've gone to cookouts, family reunions, and so on, where you see mothers and their teammates of their sons, or husband and wife teams, or brothers and sisters, or uncles and nieces.
You would get together with your elders and some of your younger family members, and you just sit around a table and you play.
The responsibility of passing down stories of a family to certain family members so that story or that knowledge will always be known. I would say spades is on that level.
To us, to me, that's Black culture. Our culture is about being able to gather, have a good moment, but enjoy it with such joy that you remember the moment.
It's very cultural, and why they take it so serious, I think, has everything to do with its origin.
Rules of spades. Number one, don't cut your partner.
The number one rule is know how to play.
No talking over the table.
Yes, you have to talk a little trash.
Spades is supposed to only be played to talk and to sit there, and when you're betting, that's when you're supposed to talk. There's no supposed to be talking in between the game pertaining to what you have in your hand.
Don't renege.
Don't what?
Renege.
You can never renege.
If you sit there and you play a card and you play off, or you play a spade and you have a heart and the heart is being played, but you cut it, that's a renege.
So don't do it.
Know the number, cards in a suit.
Ace, king, or joker, joker, deuce, joker, joker, deuce, deuce, or whatever it is. You have to be able to know all the variations.
If somebody puts down a suit, that is what you have to go with.
9 times out of 10, if you're ever asking it's your turn, or who went, it's 9 out of 10 it's your turn.
Watch what your partner plays. That's always very important.
Trust your partner.
Spades to me is a game of communication, and you have to trust your partner more than anything else.
Learn how to lose gracefully because it's very competitive, but you'll come out on top a better winner.
And win. That's the rules, to win.
And you won today, right?
I did win tonight. Shout out to my partner, good job, and it's awesome.
So with the spades, I feel like, you know, light should be brought to it as far as like a cultural thing where, you know, it does bring people together, and it is a treasure.
You know, I think the special thing about spades, especially being a Bostonian, is that when you have a really good hand, when you and your partner have a really good hand, there's something called running to Boston, and that's essentially where you take all the books. I'm not quite sure where the saying originated from. In doing some research, spades was a game played by car porters on trains, and so I would assume maybe if they were coming from the South, Boston was probably the furthest north they would go. So I would assume run to Boston means that's like the longest run. So the longest run, 13 books, and probably the longest run they would make would be up north, up the I-95 corridor to Boston.
What does spades mean to me?
When you play spades, it's like being at home. And I love playing spades.
What does spades mean to me? It brings me back to seeing my father play games, seeing my aunts play games. Brings me back to my childhood.
And I remember growing up as a kid and playing with my cousins and family gatherings and stuff like that. But in the bigger picture, I think you could go anywhere, and if somebody knows how to play spades, or if three people know, they can teach a fourth person. And it's just a way to, you know, build friendships.
You ask people, so you know how to play? You know how to play? It's kind of like an elite club within the Black community.
If you know how to play spades, you're in an elite group of people that know how to play spades.
Spades is one of many connections that I have to the African American culture. Being first generation Haitian American, I feel like I sort of dance between two cultures. I have my Haitian Caribbean roots, but then being a Black woman in America, I'm very much part of the African American culture, and I'm very much into being part of those same traditions and those same experiences. So spades for me is my connection to the African American part of my identity.
As simple as it might sound, spades is definitely a card game, but it's a little bit more than that. And for our culture, it's a lot of bit more than that.
It's the African American game of life. It's the game that comes out whether it is at a barbecue, whether it is at Thanksgiving, whether it's at Christmas, whether it's just on a Friday night at Aunt Sally Ann's house. It doesn't matter. Spades just come out. And spades you don't have to know the people that you're playing with to have a good game of spades.
It's like a camaraderie. It's a fun time.
A bunch of drinks, a bunch of laughs. A few people got angry, but it was love.
I think that the way African Americans have adapted the game and the way it's been carried on through family barbecues and celebrations and various other traditions, it has a lot of just pride and kind of cultural connection associated with it.
I think spades is a game where it doesn't matter where you're from or your background. You come together, you sit at a table, everybody's even, and you get the cards that you're dealt, and it's just an explanation of life sometimes. Is you have the cards that you're dealt and you have to work them the best you can.
I mean, it's just something that's just fun and casual, but it allows us to connect and think a little bit more about strategy and how we can work together.
For every hand that gets played, for every set of people that get together, there's some level of fellowship that just is uncanny. And for people who are always getting together and playing it over and over and again, you get to learn more about each other outside of the context of the everyday, say what's up and keep it moving. It's deeper than what a lot of people take it for, because some of the end of the spade game nights, you get to sit back and just kind of digress, look at what's happening, and it's ongoing, man. You can play a short game or you can play a long one. No matter what it is, it always gets people together and we spend good times with each other.
Spades is going to continue. It's going to keep going. Because remember, if we show the next generation, then the next generation shows the following generation. And if we can continue this legacy by making sure that we are bringing our children to the table so they can observe, and then we're bringing their peers, and then we're bringing other family, and we're continuing this, we will be guaranteed that this will live on for years and hopefully centuries to go. It started a long time ago, and now it's still existing as if it happened just yesterday. Other games have evolved from it, and we're here right now celebrating what we call community, because this is what it's really about. It's about bringing people together in community.
As an arts advocate, I've always taken a look at art as far as, first and foremost, from a historical lens. In my experience with art, from grade school level to college level, whenever we were to take a look at a past society or a civilization that's no longer there, we would always look at what we call art first. We would look at the vases from the Greeks, and these are very sophisticated peoples who took the time out to put in images in some way who they were and what they were doing at the time. So for me, I take it serious in terms of like Black people living in America. If we don't take control of our stories and we leave it up to popular culture or have someone else tell our stories for us, we're going to be in trouble. So, and from that angle, I've always advocated for us to get involved in the arts, encourage us to paint, take pictures, write, sing as much as possible. So again, with this opportunity with the Gardner, I see it as a way to tie in the importance of the arts and what they mean to you as a people.